On a rain-soaked night at a bustling steakhouse, a quiet Marine veteran whispered just 2 words to the city's police chief: "Don't talk." Seconds later, everything changed. What hidden danger did he sense before anyone else? And how did that single moment ignite a chain of courage, love, and redemption that no one could have predicted? Now let's step into the night where it all began. The night smelled of rain and wood smoke, the kind of late autumn drizzle that slicked every surface and made neon signs glow like watercolor. Aaron Brooks tightened the collar of his weather-worn marine field jacket as he and his 8-year-old daughter Bella crossed the small parking lot toward Cedar Steakhouse. The warm light inside spilled through the tall windows, promising comfort and a quiet birthday meal they had promised each other for weeks. Bella skipped lightly over a puddle, her dark hair escaping from a red knit hat. "It smells like campfire," she said, lifting her face to the mist. Aaron smiled, the lines around his eyes deepening. "That's the oak they cook over. Best steaks in town. You picked a good place, kiddo." Inside the steakhouse buzzed with the soft clatter of silverware and the hum of conversation. Wooden beams framed the room, and a long brick wall held framed photos of ranchers and prize cattle. A crackling fireplace flickered in the far corner, the scent of seared beef and rosemary butter wrapped around them like a welcome blanket. The hostess led them to a booth along the back wall, near a corridor that disappeared toward the kitchen. Aaron helped Bella out of her coat and slid into the seat across from her. She pressed her hands against the warm mug of cocoa the waitress brought almost instantly. Someone must have seen her shiver. For a moment, Aaron let himself relax. Nights like these had been rare since his wife's accident 3 years ago. Between construction jobs and school schedules, dinner out felt like a small miracle. Then the back of his neck prickled. It was subtle at first, just the faint scrape of something metal against tile beyond the half-closed kitchen door. A shadow shifted where it shouldn't. He let his gaze drift across the room without turning his head. 2 men in dark jackets lingered near the bar, one pretending to read a menu he hadn't flipped in 10 minutes. The kitchen door swung slightly, revealing a flash of stainless steel that wasn't cookware. Years of combat deployments in dusty villages had trained Aaron to read rooms the way others read street signs. Something was wrong. He slid a hand across the table and covered Bella's small fingers. "Sweetheart," he said lightly, "how about a quick bathroom break before dinner comes?" Bella tilted her head. "But I don't have to." "Please," he said, the quiet edge in his voice enough for her to nod. She knew that tone from fire drill talks and late-night thunder. Aaron caught the hostess's eye and signaled, "Could you take her to the restroom for me? I need to stretch my back." The young woman smiled and led Bella away. Only when they disappeared down the hallway did Aaron stand. His heart rate slowed the way it always had, before a firefight, steady, deliberate. He turned toward the nearest table where Chief of Police Claire Anderson sat with 2 detectives. He recognized her from the local paper, sharp-eyed, mid-40s reputation for cleaning up the waterfront drug traffic. Tonight, she wore a charcoal blazer and the kind of quiet authority that didn't need a badge on display. Aaron stepped closer, his boots silent on the polished wood. When she looked up, he lowered his voice to a gravelly whisper, shaped by years of sand and smoke. "Don't talk. Just listen." Claire's brows drew together. The detectives looked up, startled. Aaron kept his gaze level, the calm of a man who'd seen too many ambushes. "There's movement in the kitchen that doesn't belong. 2 men at the bar aren't here for dinner. I think someone's setting up a hit." For a heartbeat, no one moved. Outside, rain tapped the windows like a second ticking clock. Claire studied him, reading posture and eyes the way seasoned officers do. He didn't smell of alcohol. He wasn't jittery like a prank caller. There was something in the set of his shoulders, a soldier's economy of motion, that told her he believed every word. She rose without scraping the chair, one hand, slipping to the radio at her hip. "Which direction?" she murmured. Aaron inclined his head toward the swinging door. "Kitchen. One with a gun, maybe more." The two at the bar are lookouts. One of the detectives reached for his phone to call dispatch, but before he could speak, a faint clatter echoed from the kitchen, like a metal tray dropped too softly to be accident. Claire's eyes sharpened. She touched the mic on her lapel and whispered a code for immediate backup, her voice barely above breath. The air in the restaurant seemed to change temperature. Conversations dulled, as if the room itself sensed danger. Aaron's senses widened. He could smell the tang of gun oil over the steak smoke now. A sudden motion, the door to the kitchen slammed outward. A man in a black apron strode out, one hand hidden beneath a folded towel. Aaron's instincts screamed. He moved before thought. He pivoted around Claire, drawing a chair with his left hand, while his right seized the attacker's wrist. The towel fell away, revealing the glint of a suppressed pistol. The man grunted, shocked at the speed of the counter. The two men at the bar shoved back their stools in perfect unison. Down, Claire barked, her voice slicing through the stunned dining room. Patrons ducked beneath tables. Glasses shattered. Aaron drove his shoulder into the gunman's chest, pinning him against the brick wall. A muffled shot popped, the sound barely louder than a champagne cork, but the round buried harmlessly into the beam above. Claire swung toward the bar, just as the second man reached inside his jacket. Her service weapon cleared leather in a clean, trained arc. "Police, drop it," she ordered. The suspect hesitated, saw the fire in her eyes, and froze. The third man bolted for the door, only to collide with a waiter, carrying a tray of hot plates. The crash and hiss of searing sauce filled the air as another detective tackled him to the ground. Aaron wrenched the first gun free and kicked it across the floor. The attacker tried a desperate elbow strike. Aaron shifted, using the man's own momentum to slam him onto the hardwood. Years of Marine close-quarters drills played out with mechanical precision. Within seconds, the room was a chaos of shouting diners, clinking silverware, and the distant wail of sirens rushing closer. Claire lowered her weapon fractionally and met Aaron's gaze. For a long beat, neither spoke. Rain streaked the windows like silver threads, and the smell of scorched steak mingled with the metallic scent of adrenaline. Finally, she said quietly, "You just saved a lot of lives." Aaron exhaled, the Marine discipline giving way to the tremor of a father who had sent his child out of harm's way. "Just did what needed doing," he replied. Bella's small voice cut through the din from the hallway. "Daddy," she clutched the hostess's hand, eyes wide but dry. Relief surged through Aaron so hard his knees almost gave. He crouched to pull her close, whispering a silent prayer of thanks as the first squad cars screeched to a stop outside. Inside Cedar Steakhouse, time seemed to restart, but nothing about the night would ever be ordinary again. The Cedar Steakhouse had settled into a stunned hush. The savory scent of charred oak lingered beneath a metallic tang of gun oil and fear. Blue and red police lights pulsed through the rain-streaked windows like the heartbeat of a restless city. Aaron Brooks stood near the brick wall, where he had pinned the gunman moments earlier, his breathing finally slowing, but every muscle still ready to spring. Outside, tires splashed on wet pavement as backup units screeched to a stop. Inside, uniformed officers moved with sharp efficiency, securing weapons and checking on shaken diners. The would-be assassin wrists, bound in heavy cuffs, lay scowling at the floor. Chief Claire Anderson lowered her radio, the sharp command in her voice softening now that the immediate threat had passed. She looked across the room to where Aaron crouched beside Bella, who clung to his neck like a sailor to the last piece of driftwood. "You both all right?" Claire asked, approaching. Bella's wide brown eyes met hers. "Daddy told me to stay quiet," she said in a trembling whisper. "I did." Aaron brushed damp strands of hair from his daughter's face. "You did perfectly, Bea," he said, kissing the top of her knit hat. He turned to Claire. "We're fine. Better than fine thanks to you and your team." A detective approached, carrying the recovered handgun in a sealed evidence bag. "Chief, the suppressor's military grade," he reported. "Not some backyard job. Whoever sent these guys knew what they were doing." Claire's jaw tightened. "That's what worries me." The words hung in the smoky air. Aaron caught the flicker of unease behind her calm exterior. He knew that look. It was the face of someone who just realized the battle wasn't over. By the time the last frightened diner gave a statement and headed into the rainy night, only officers and staff remained. The Cedar Steakhouse felt oddly hollow, without its usual laughter and music. Aaron sat with Bella in their corner booth, sipping coffee gone cold, while Claire finished an urgent phone call near the door. When she returned, she carried a thin leather notebook and an expression sharpened by years of police work. "Mind if I join you?" she asked. "Please." Aaron slid over, giving her room on the bench seat. Bella leaned sleepily against her father's side. Claire offered a small smile. "She's brave," she said softly. Most adults would have panicked. Aaron wrapped an arm around his daughter. "She's her mom's daughter," he said, voice catching for just a heartbeat. Then he shifted back to the business at hand. "You think this is bigger than a botched robbery?" "I do." Claire opened the notebook and tapped a page. "The man you stopped is linked to an organized crime ring we've been tracking for months. They specialize in high-stakes hits, money laundering, and steakhouses like this one. Cedar's owner, according to our financial unit, has unexplained cash flows." She glanced up. The scary part. Someone inside my department knew I'd be here tonight. Aaron's eyes narrowed. "An inside leak." Claire nodded. "We kept this dinner off the books. No reservations, no social posts. Only my immediate team knew, which means one of them may have tipped these guys." Aaron thought of the two men at the bar who had moved with military precision. This wasn't their first dance. They looked like they'd rehearsed every angle. Claire studied him. "You speak like someone who's been on the other side of an ambush." Aaron hesitated. Few outside his Marine brothers knew the details of his tours. "I served with the Corps," he said finally. "Reconnaissance, Afghanistan, Fallujah, a few places I can't name. I learned to read a room fast, or not come home at all." Something softened in Claire's eyes, a recognition that went beyond professional respect. "That explains how you saw what the rest of us missed." "Old habits," he said. "They don't die easy." A knock on the booth interrupted them. Detective Cal Bryant, tall and broad-shouldered, looked uneasy. "Chief Forensics wants you in the kitchen. There's something you should see." Claire rose, then looked back at Aaron. "Would you come? You saw the room before the chaos. Your perspective might help." Aaron glanced at Bella, now fighting to keep her eyes open. "I don't want to leave her alone. I can stay," Cal offered. "I've got a daughter about her age. We'll sit right here." Bella gave a small nod, trusting the stranger because her father did. Aaron squeezed her hand. "I'll be back in a few minutes, Bea. Order the biggest chocolate cake they've got, okay?" She managed a faint smile. The kitchen smelled of smoke and bleach. Evidence techs photographed every angle, while steam curled from half-finished steaks, abandoned on the grill. Claire guided Aaron toward a narrow service corridor, where a heavy steel door stood slightly ajar. Inside lay a cramped office stacked with wine invoices and supply ledgers. But the details that grabbed Aaron's eye weren't culinary. A digital map of the restaurant with sightlines, marked in red, and a small duffel half unzipped to reveal more suppressed weapons. "They were ready for a siege," Aaron said quietly. Claire nodded grimly. "And look here." She handed him a sheet of paper, sealed in a plastic sleeve. It was a printout of tonight's seating chart, highlighted in yellow around her table. Aaron exhaled. That confirms an inside leak. It gets worse, Claire added. The timestamps on this document are from an encrypted email server we only use for major operations. Whoever forwarded it knew exactly how to cover tracks. A thought chilled Aaron. If they planned this carefully tonight, wasn't meant to scare you. It was meant to finish you. Claire's voice stayed calm, but the muscles along her jaw tightened. That's my read, too. Back at the booth, Bella dozed peacefully as Detective Bryant kept a watchful eye. Aaron's heart softened at the sight, his little girl sleeping through the storm, as if she trusted the world because he was near. He slid into the seat and stroked her hair silently, grateful for every breath she took. Claire sat across from him again, the weight of new evidence pressing on her. Aaron. I need to ask something unusual, she said. You noticed things even my best detectives missed. Would you be willing to help us at least until we find who leaked my location? Aaron met her steady gaze. He had promised himself after leaving the Marines and losing his wife never to re-enter a world of shadows and violence. But tonight he had nearly lost Bella. The thought of danger still out there hunting someone who had quickly become more than a stranger made the decision easier than he expected. I'll help, he said simply, but only if it keeps my daughter safe. Claire extended her hand. That's all I could ask. Their handshake held a quiet gravity, an unspoken alliance forged in the smoky air of a steakhouse that would never feel ordinary again. Outside, the rain began to fall harder, drumming on the awning like distant drums of war. Aaron knew the fight was far from over. Yet as he looked at Bella's peaceful face and met Claire's determined eyes, he felt a new resolve take root. Whatever shadows waited behind the kitchen door, he was ready to face them. The next morning dawned gray and thin, a pale light bleeding through heavy clouds. Aaron Brooks woke early as he always did, his body still wired to a Marine's internal clock. But instead of the usual quiet rhythm of making coffee and packing Bella's school lunch, his mind kept replaying the night before every clatter of steel, every flicker of shadow in the Cedar Steakhouse kitchen. Bella still slept in the next room, a soft hum of breath under the quilt. Aaron paused at her doorway, letting the sight of her steady rise and fall anchor him. Last night could have ended differently. The knowledge settled heavy in his chest and made him silently promise to guard her with everything he had. When his phone buzzed, he almost didn't answer. The caller ID read, Claire Anderson. Morning. Her voice came low but warm. Sorry to call so early. Are you two all right? We're good, Aaron said, lowering his voice so as not to wake Bella. She's still asleep. I think she feels safe, and that's what matters. I'm glad, Claire replied. Then her tone shifted all business. There's more. The lab found fingerprints on the weapons. One belongs to a man named Leo Santucci. He's tied to an organized crime network operating out of the waterfront. But the troubling part is the seating chart with my name. That had to come from inside. Aaron gripped the counter edge. Have you narrowed down the leak? Not yet. But the circle is small, too small for comfort. She hesitated, then added, I'd like to meet later today. There's something you should see, something that connects last night to a bigger picture. Aaron thought of Bella. I need to drop her at school first. Where do you want to meet? Let's keep it public, but quiet. There's a small coffee shop 2 blocks from the station, Brooklyn and Bean. Noon, I'll be there. By noon, the rain had thinned to a mist that hung in the air like breath. Brooklyn and Bean was tucked between a florist and a used bookstore, the kind of place where steam fogged the windows and jazz played softly in the background. Claire was already at a corner table, a folder open beside her latte. She looked different in daylight, less the commanding police chief and more a woman who appreciated strong coffee and a moment of stillness. Yet the intensity in her eyes hadn't faded. Aaron slid into the chair opposite. What's the bigger picture? Claire tapped the folder. The Santucci network has been using high-end restaurants as a front for laundering money and for more direct business. Cedar Steakhouse is one of several under quiet surveillance. We've suspected that a few of their operations run as safe houses for contract killers. Aaron absorbed that in silence. Last night wasn't random. No. Claire's voice sharpened. And the fact that they knew I'd be there means someone inside my department is feeding them. That leak endangers not just me, but every officer and civilian who crosses their path. Aaron's military mind started mapping connections, sight lines, entry points, how easily the steakhouse could become a trap. These guys move like trained operators, he said. Whoever planned it knew law enforcement response times and how to exploit blind spots. Claire studied him. That's why I wanted to show you this. She slid a photograph across the table. It showed a dimly lit storage room lined with wine barrels. Red grease pencil marks circled vents and ceiling beams. The duffel bag we found contained more suppressed weapons, and this layout. It's a kill box design someone with tactical experience drew this. Aaron recognized the pattern immediately. This is military style. Someone in their circle has combat training. She nodded grimly. Exactly. And that makes them harder to catch. A waitress brought refills, the hiss of the espresso machine masking their lowered voices. Claire leaned in. Here's where you come in, Aaron. I know you've tried to stay clear of all this, but you read that room faster than my best detectives. You saw the blind angles and the signals. I need that insight temporarily until we find the leak. Aaron stirred his coffee, the spoon clinking softly. He had walked away from battlefields for Bella, believing he could build a life of simple routines and quiet safety. Yet danger had found them anyway, and there was something about Claire's steady courage, something that stirred a part of him he thought he'd left behind. He met her gaze. I'll help. But Bella comes first. Always. I wouldn't expect otherwise, Claire said. Her eyes softened, a flash of gratitude cutting through the tension. I promise we'll keep her safe. They exchanged numbers and a plan he would review the surveillance footage with her team that evening and help identify tactical patterns. As Aaron left the cafe, he felt the old adrenaline hum of a mission forming a mission he hadn't asked for, but couldn't refuse. Later that afternoon, after picking Bella up from school, Aaron drove to the modest two-story house they rented on a quiet street. Bella chattered about a class art project, but Aaron's mind drifted to the coming meeting. Still, he forced himself to focus on her bright voice to give her the normalcy she deserved. At home, they cooked spaghetti together. Bella insisted on extra garlic bread, which made Aaron laugh. When she asked why he seemed thoughtful, he simply said, "Just helping a friend with some work." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth. After dinner, he settled Bella with a storybook and a promise that Aunt Martha next door would check in while he stepped out for a short meeting. Bella accepted it with the easy trust of a child who believed her father could keep every danger at bay. The police station's operations room smelled of coffee and printer ink. Large monitors displayed security feeds from Cedar Steakhouse and nearby streets. Detectives Cal Bryant and Angela Chen greeted Aaron with respectful nods. Word of his actions had already traveled through the department. Claire joined them, a tablet in hand. Let's start from the top. They reviewed footage, frame by frame. Aaron pointed out subtle details others might have missed, the way one lookout adjusted his stance to cover the entrance, the brief hand signal exchanged before the kitchen door burst open. Each observation tightened the timeline and clarified the attacker's strategy. Angela leaned back, impressed. "You've done this before?" Aaron offered a faint smile. Different terrain, same instincts. Then a new clip appeared, grainy but clear enough to show a shadow slipping through a side alley minutes before the attack. The figure wore a hood, but the gait was distinctive. Claire's breath caught. "I know that walk," she said quietly. "That's Mark Blevins. He's one of my senior investigators." The room fell silent. Cal muttered, "Mark. Are you sure?" Claire's eyes hardened. "I worked with him for 10 years. I'd bet my badge on it." Aaron felt the air shift. This wasn't just corruption. It was betrayal of the deepest kind. Claire straightened resolve, sharpening every word. "We move carefully. No one outside this room knows. Tomorrow, we'll set a controlled meet and draw him out." She looked to Aaron. "Will you stand with us when we do?" Aaron thought of Bella asleep under a neighbor's watch and of the promise he'd made to protect her. He also thought of the quiet steadiness in Claire's eyes and the countless families who might be saved if they cut off this deadly leak. "Yes," he said simply. "I'm in." As he left the station under a sky still heavy with storm clouds, Aaron felt both the weight of danger and a strange clarity. The path ahead was uncertain, but one truth shone through the mist. The quiet life he had built was giving way to something larger, something that demanded courage, not just for himself and Bella, but for a city on the edge of unseen violence. The following evening, the city's mist returned a thin silver veil over streetlights and puddled sidewalks. Aaron Brooks parked his truck a block away from the quiet brick warehouse that served as the police department's covert operations site. The place looked like any other shipping depot along the waterfront, but inside it pulsed with the low hum of monitors and strategy boards. As he stepped through the reinforced door, the smell of hot coffee and printer ink met him. Chief Claire Anderson stood at the center of a table crowded with maps and photographs, a navy jacket over her holstered sidearm. Her eyes brightened for an instant when she saw him, but the gravity of the night quickly reclaimed her features. "You came," she said simply. "I said I would," Aaron replied. He offered a faint smile, then scanned the room. "Where's Bella?" she asked. "With my neighbor Martha," he said. "She's in safe hands." Claire nodded, visibly relieved. "Good." Tonight might get complicated. Detectives Cal Bryant and Angela Chen joined them, placing a laptop at the table's center. On the screen appeared a map of Cedar Steakhouse and the surrounding district. Red dots pulsed like slow heartbeats. Angela explained, "These are linked safe locations we've tracked over the last year. Restaurants, wine bars, even a catering company. All under the umbrella of the Santucci Syndicate. Money laundering arms, dealing contract killings. Cedar wasn't just a random choice. It's a key node." Aaron leaned closer. "And the man who set up last night's attack, Mark Blevins, has ties to them." Cal clicked a video clip, a grainy feed of a side alley near the steakhouse, the shadowed figure unmistakably Blevins. "We matched his walk-body build, and even a partial facial shot with 98% confidence. He wasn't just watching, he was orchestrating." Claire folded her arms. "Blevins has been on my team for a decade. He had access to every undercover schedule, every surveillance plan. He knew I'd be at Cedar. If he's feeding intel to Santucci, we're looking at a deep, long-term infiltration." Aaron felt a chill settle through his chest. This isn't a leak. It's a partnership. Claire's eyes flashed. Exactly. Angela tapped the keyboard again. Another image appeared, a set of bank statements with transfers in neat high-value numbers. Here's where it gets darker. Offshore deposits hitting an account in Blevins' name under a shell company matching the time frame of every failed sting operation we've had against Santucci in the past 2 years. A low whistle escaped Cal. He's been cashing in every time we missed. Aaron exhaled slowly. He'd seen betrayal in combat interpreters, who passed troop movements to insurgents, officers who siphoned aid money. But seeing it here on American soil carried a different sting. "What's the plan?" Claire straightened her presence, commanding yet measured. "Tomorrow night we call him in under the guise of an internal review. The room will be wired for video and audio. We'll let him talk, and when he makes his move, if he makes it, we'll have everything." Aaron tilted his head. "And if he doesn't come alone?" "That's where we'll need you," Claire said without hesitation. "Your eyes, your instincts. You see danger before anyone else," Cal added. "And you're calm. Yesterday, you moved like you were born for it." Aaron shook his head lightly. "Born for it. Maybe trained for it. But I have one condition: Bella stays far from all of this." "Of course," Claire said. "We'll assign a protective unit near your home for the next 48 hours. Their gazes met hers, steady with gratitude, his steady with resolve. Beneath the hum of equipment, something unspoken passed between them, trust forged in the fire of danger. The meeting stretched late into the night. They rehearsed scenarios, Blevins arriving early, bringing backup, carrying hidden devices. Aaron offered tactical insight, drawing on long-ago patrols through Afghan villages and urban raids in Fallujah. His voice stayed calm, each sentence clipped and precise. He mapped the warehouse floor like a chessboard, anticipating every move Blevins might make. At one point, Angela paused to refill coffee and whispered to Claire, "You'd think he was one of us." Claire watched Aaron's profile under the blue glow of monitors. "In another life," she murmured. Close to midnight, they broke for a brief rest. Aaron stepped outside onto the loading dock. The rain had stopped, leaving the air cool and sharp with the scent of the sea. He leaned against the railing, letting the quiet seep in. For years, he'd promised himself a simpler life, no more war rooms or adrenaline surges. Yet here he stood, heart steady, purpose renewed. Footsteps approached. Claire joined him, her jacket pulled tight. "Can't sleep either. Never could before a mission," he admitted. Old habits. For a moment they watched the dark water shimmer under street lamps. Claire spoke softly. "I keep replaying last night. The way you moved, the way you saw it all coming. If you hadn't been there." Aaron shook his head. "You'd have found another way. You always do." "Maybe," she said, "but I keep thinking about Bella. She deserves a world where a birthday dinner isn't interrupted by gunfire." He felt the ache of her words. "That's why I'm here. To make sure she has that world." Their eyes met in the dim light, a quiet current of understanding passing between them. For the first time since his wife's death, Aaron sensed the faint possibility of something more than survival, a life where trust and even love could take root again. The next morning brought an early call. Aaron's phone buzzed on the nightstand as dawn's first light crept across the ceiling. He answered instantly. "It's Claire," came the calm, low voice. "Blevins confirmed the meeting for tonight, 7 p.m. He sounded too calm. We need to assume he knows more than we expect. Aaron sat up, heart steady. Then we stay ahead of him. "I'll send a car for you at 6, she said. A brief pause, softer now. "Thank you, Aaron, for standing with us." He glanced toward Bella's room where soft breathing reminded him why every decision mattered. "I'll be ready," he said. After the call, he sat for a long moment in the quiet house, the ticking of the kitchen clock marking the distance between an ordinary morning and the storm gathering for nightfall. He knew the hours ahead could change everything, expose corruption. Yes, but also place them all in new danger. Still, a sense of purpose steadied him. Once he had worn a uniform and fought battles in distant deserts. Now, without a uniform, he was about to fight for something even closer, to home, the safety of his daughter, the integrity of his city, and perhaps the fragile hope blooming between him and the woman who refused to back down. That evening, as the sky bruised purple over the waterfront, Aaron dressed in plain dark clothes and kissed Bella's forehead while she read on the couch. Back soon. Be, he promised. She smiled, trusting him completely. Driving toward the rendezvous, he felt no hesitation, only the calm clarity of a soldier who knows why he stands, where he stands. Tonight, the shadows that had crept behind the steakhouse door would be forced into the light, and Aaron Brooks intended to be there when the truth finally showed its face. The sky was bruised purple when Aaron Brooks locked the front door of their small house and crouched to meet Bella's eyes. She sat curled on the couch in her flannel pajamas, book in hand, but attention fixed on him. "Back soon, B," he said softly. "Remember, Mrs. Martha next door is just one call away if you need anything." Bella's brow furrowed. Is this about the bad men from the restaurant? Aaron hesitated. He never underestimated her perceptiveness. "It's about making sure people stay safe," he said at last. "I promise I'll be careful." She studied his face with a seriousness that startled him, then whispered, "Like when you were a Marine." He nodded, both proud and heartbroken that she knew. Exactly like that. Bella reached into the pocket of her pajama top and pulled out a tiny charm, a simple silver star from her school art fair. "Take it," she insisted. "For good luck." Aaron's throat tightened. "That's your favorite." "I have you," she said matter-of-factly. "That's better than a star." He hugged her hard, the scent of shampoo and crayons flooding his senses. "You're my brave girl," he murmured. "I'll carry this until I'm home." At the waterfront warehouse, Chief Claire Anderson and Detectives Cal Bryant and Angela Chen waited amid maps and screens glowing in cold blue light. Tonight, every movement felt like part of a silent chess match. At 7 sharp, Mark Blevins was due to arrive. Claire met Aaron at the entrance. "Unit posted outside your house," she said, immediately reading his thoughts. "Bella's safe." Aaron gave a brief nod. "Then let's do this." Inside, the team rehearsed positions one last time. Claire would meet Blevins alone in a glass-walled conference room, wired for both video and audio. Cal and Angela would monitor from the adjoining control booth, with tactical officers staged in the hallway. Aaron's role was unofficial, but crucial watch patterns others might miss. Tiny shifts of weight, signs of concealed weapons tells of a second wave. "Stay out of sight, but keep your vantage," Claire instructed. "If anything feels off, signal Cal through the comms." Aaron adjusted the small earpiece they'd given him. Understood. At 6:55 p.m., the hum of the building sharpened. Cameras displayed the entrance, where a black sedan eased to a stop. Mark Blevins stepped out wearing a charcoal overcoat, face unreadable. He carried a leather briefcase, his stride calm, too calm. Aaron's Marine instincts flared. He knows something. From the shadowed corner of the observation booth, Aaron noted subtle details. Blevins' coat didn't drape naturally. A heavy shape tugged one side lower, possibly a concealed weapon. And his eyes, when he paused to greet the receptionist, moved not like a man distracted, but like one calculating distances. Claire greeted him in the conference room with the polite reserve of a seasoned officer. "Mark, thanks for coming on short notice." Her voice carried through the speakers. "No problem," Chief Blevins replied easily, placing the briefcase on the table. "What's the emergency?" Aaron whispered into the mic. "Right hip weight. Could be armed." Cal relayed the message to the tactical team, silently tightening their perimeter. Inside, Claire folded her hands. "I wanted to talk about Cedar Steakhouse." New evidence surfaced. Blevins' lips curved faintly. "Ah, the dinner ambush. Nasty business?" "Yes," Claire said. "Interesting that someone knew I'd be there." A flicker crossed Blevins' face, gone in a blink, but Aaron caught it, a tightening of the jaw, the tiniest hitch in breathing. Claire slid a photograph across the table, a grainy frame from the alley camera. "Recognize this." Blevins leaned forward, pretending to study it. Hard to tell in the dark. Aaron murmured, "Pupil dilation." He recognizes himself. Claire pressed gently, her tone both firm and deceptively casual. Funny thing, our system shows that only a handful of people had access to my schedule. You're one of them." Silence stretched. Blevins tapped a finger on the table, a rhythmic code Aaron had heard insurgents use when timing a distraction. "Check the hallway cams," Aaron whispered. Angela clicked through feeds. A new image blinked, a second figure hooded approaching the rear service entrance. "Back up," Aaron said sharply. He didn't come alone. Cal signaled silently. The tactical team moved like a single muscle sealing exits. Inside the conference room, Blevins finally spoke. "You know, Claire, loyalty cuts both ways. Maybe you should have looked closer at the people you trust." His hand drifted toward the heavy side of his coat. Aaron didn't wait. He pushed from the booth and entered the room in 3 strides. "Don't," he said, voice low but carrying a command honed on battlefields. "Your next move decides everything." Blevins froze, startled by Aaron's sudden presence. Claire calm, as Steele drew her weapon and aimed center mass. Behind the glass, Cal announced softly into the mic, "Rear suspect detained. Building secure." Blevins exhaled, shoulders sagging. "You don't understand," he muttered. "They'll kill me if I talk." "Then talk now," Claire said, her tone gentler but unyielding. Hours later, with Blevins in custody and his accomplice under arrest, the warehouse hummed with controlled relief. Through interrogation, he revealed that the Santucci syndicate planned a second strike, one targeting multiple precinct leaders at a citywide conference next week. His role had been to feed them times and security gaps. Cedar Steakhouse had been the rehearsal and the message. Aaron sat on a bench outside the conference room, the adrenaline ebbing. Claire approached, fatigue etched into her strong features, but a quiet gratitude in her eyes. "You saved lives tonight," she said. "Again." Aaron shook his head. "Bella saved them first. She saw something last night I didn't. The courage to act, even when you're scared. I just followed through." Claire's expression softened. "She's remarkable. Takes after her dad." The compliment landed deep. For years, Aaron had feared that his military past and the loss of Bella's mother might leave only shadows for his daughter to inherit. But tonight he saw something different. Her quiet bravery had already lit a new path. He pulled the silver star charm from his pocket and turned it in his palm. "She gave me this for luck," he said. Maybe it worked. Claire smiled, a warmth that eased the night's sharp edges. Maybe it was never about luck. Maybe it's who you are and who she is. Aaron looked toward the dark horizon beyond the warehouse windows. The city still hid dangers, but for the first time he sensed that his family's story wasn't one of survival alone. Courage passed from father to daughter was already shaping something larger, something that might even reach beyond the violence of the streets. When Aaron finally returned home near dawn, the house was quiet. He peeked into Bella's room. She stirred, half awake. "Daddy." "I'm home, B," he whispered, tucking the blanket around her. "Everything's okay." Her eyes fluttered shut, trusting the promise without question. Aaron stood there a long moment, the silver star warm in his hand. The mission wasn't over, but something inside him had shifted. He no longer felt like a soldier, merely fending off danger. He felt like a father, building a legacy of courage, one quiet act at a time. The morning after Mark Blevins' arrest broke bright and cold, the first true sun in a week. Aaron Brooks stood on the small back porch with a steaming mug of coffee, watching the thin frost melt from the grass. The quiet should have felt like a reward, but his mind moved restlessly, replaying the night's revelations and the way danger kept circling back, as if war never truly let go. Inside, Bella padded out in her bunny slippers, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Morning, Daddy." Aaron smiled and crouched to kiss her forehead. "Morning, B. Hungry always," she said with a grin. They moved into the kitchen together, scrambling eggs, and slicing strawberries. The domestic rhythm grounded him, but as Bella chattered about school art projects and playground adventures, Aaron couldn't shake the memory of Blevins' words. "They'll kill me if I talk." Even here, in this warm kitchen, the shadows of old battlefields stretched long. Later that day, Chief Claire Anderson arrived, bringing a gentle knock and a gust of crisp winter air. She wore jeans and a navy peacoat instead of her uniform, a subtle sign that this visit was personal. Bella greeted her with unguarded delight and immediately insisted on showing off her art corner in the living room. Aaron poured coffee while Claire admired Bella's drawings, bright houses, starry skies, and one careful sketch of a silver star charm. "She really is something," Claire said softly when Bella ran off to fetch more crayons. "Fearless, but thoughtful. I can see where she gets it." Aaron gave a modest shrug. "She keeps me brave, not the other way around." Claire studied him a long moment, then set her mug down. "Aaron, there's something I've been wanting to ask. Last night you read the room faster than any of us. The way you moved it wasn't just instinct. There's more to your service record than Marine veteran." "Isn't there?" Aaron exhaled, knowing this conversation would come. "There is," he admitted. "I wasn't just a rifleman. I served in Recon Force reconnaissance. We were trained for deep surveillance hostage extractions, counter-terror missions. My last deployment ended when an IED took out half my team. I survived, but—" He stopped the memory, a physical ache. Claire's eyes softened. "You don't have to share more than you want." "It's all right." He gripped the coffee cup like an anchor. "I lost brothers that day. And when I came home, I lost my wife in a car accident 18 months later. After that, I walked away from everything. No more combat. No more missions. I just wanted to raise Bella and keep life simple." Silence settled between them, heavy but not uncomfortable. Claire finally said, "I'm so sorry, Aaron. That's more loss than most people face in a lifetime." He nodded. "It changes how you see the world. You stop trusting coincidence. You learn to spot patterns before they turn deadly. I thought leaving the Marines meant leaving all that behind, but maybe some callings don't retire." Bella reappeared with a masterpiece of purple and gold paint. "Look," she announced, breaking the tension. Claire admired it sincerely, then offered to help clean the brushes. As they worked side by side, Aaron felt something unexpected, not just relief at adult company, but a gentle warmth that edged toward hope. When Bella ran outside to play with the neighbor's dog, Claire glanced back at him. "You've carried a lot alone. You don't have to anymore." Aaron met her gaze. "Last night, for the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. Something quiet and steady passed between them, a trust built not on adrenaline, but on recognition of shared resilience." That evening, Aaron joined Claire at headquarters to debrief. The precinct buzzed with a new urgency. Detectives analyzed Blevins' confession, piecing together a web of offshore accounts and encrypted messages. The information pointed to a broader plot. The Santucci syndicate was planning simultaneous strikes on high-profile city officials during an upcoming civic leadership conference. Angela Chen briefed them. "We believe Cedar Steakhouse was a test run meant to scare and to measure response times." Blevins admitted he provided internal security details to Santucci over the past 2 years. Cal Bryant added, "We've got the financial paper trail now, but we still don't know how deep the infiltration goes." Claire turned to Aaron. "We need your eyes again. The conference is in 3 days. Could you review the venue layout with us? We can't afford blind spots." Aaron's first instinct was to say no. Every new step pulled him further from the quiet life he'd promised Bella, but he pictured the silver star she had given him, the faith in her small voice, and he thought of Claire's unflinching courage. "I'll help," he said, "but only if we double security for Bella during the event." Claire nodded immediately. Already arranged. She'll have 2 units nearby and Mrs. Martha as a constant contact. Something in her quick assurance sent a wave of gratitude through him. This wasn't just a chief protecting a witness. This was a woman who understood what mattered most. As the night wore on, Aaron pored over blueprints of the downtown convention center where the conference would be held. He traced entrances and air vents, pointing out potential sniper perches and ambush corridors. His calm precision impressed the entire team. Cal leaned back, shaking his head. "You missed your calling, man." "Ever think about joining the force?" Aaron half smiled. "I thought I left that life behind. Guess it found me again." Claire watched him quietly, pride flickering in her eyes. "Sometimes the world doesn't let the right people stay hidden." Those words settled deep, almost like a benediction. Near midnight, after hours of planning, Claire walked Aaron to the parking lot. The air smelled of wet pavement and salt from the bay. They lingered by his truck, neither in a hurry to end the conversation. "Thank you," she said finally. "Not just for tonight, for everything." Aaron looked at her in the dim streetlight. "You don't need to thank me. This city is our home too. And I trust you." Her breath caught just slightly. "That means more than you know." For a heartbeat, they simply stood there, the night quiet around them, except for the soft lap of water against the pier. Aaron sensed the beginning of something neither of them had planned, a bond, deeper than shared danger. Driving home, Aaron replayed the day, Bella's courage, Claire's steady presence, the way his long-buried skills were now a lifeline for others. He no longer felt like a man defined by past losses. Instead, he felt the stirrings of renewal of purpose, and perhaps even love. Inside the darkened house, he checked on Bella. She slept soundly, her silver star charm resting on the nightstand. Aaron touched it gently, a silent vow forming in his heart, to meet the coming storm with everything he had, and to build a future bright enough for both of them. 3 nights later, the wind shifted off the bay, carrying the briny chill of an approaching storm. Aaron Brooks parked near the downtown convention center, where the city's leadership conference would begin at dawn. Floodlights bathed the modern glass and steel building in sterile white, and security checkpoints hummed with activity as officers moved equipment into place. Inside the operations trailer, set up on the plaza, Chief Claire Anderson stood at a large digital map, surrounded by her team. She greeted Aaron with a look that balanced relief and determination. "You're right on time," she said. "The first wave of officials arrives within the hour. I want every corner double-checked before sunrise." Aaron returned her nod, scanning the map. Perimeter teams, 2 units at every entrance, rooftop, snipers on rotation cameras at all blind spots, Claire said. But she tapped the display where a red icon blinked over a service corridor. This section of the basement wine storage from when the building housed a banquet hall was walled off years ago. It shows up on old blueprints, but not on current fire maps. Aaron's instincts sharpened. That's exactly where I'd hide a strike team. Cal Bryant, standing beside them, frowned. "We checked it last week, locked and dusty, but Blevins's notes suggested cellar access. We couldn't find it." Aaron studied the schematics. "If the Santucci Syndicate scouted this place, they may know of an entrance you missed. I'll take a look." Claire didn't hesitate. "I'm coming with you." They descended through echoing stairwells into the lowest level of the building. The air cooled, sharply tinged with concrete and faint mildew. Emergency lights cast long shadows across sealed doors and stacked chairs. Aaron carried only a flashlight and the quiet confidence of a Marine on reconnaissance. At the far end of the corridor, behind a stack of banquet tables, he noticed a patch of drywall that didn't match the rest, slightly newer, paint a shade lighter. He tapped it with a knuckle. The hollow sound made Claire raise an eyebrow. "Hidden panel," Aaron murmured. "Help me move these tables." Together they shifted the furniture and found a narrow seam. Aaron pressed along the edge until a disguised latch gave way with a soft click. A section of wall swung inward to reveal a steep staircase leading down into darkness. Claire exhaled. Unlisted cellar. Aaron flicked on his flashlight. The beam cut through stale air to reveal stone walls, lined with old wine racks. "Let's call for backup," he said quietly. Claire keyed her radio. "Unit Bravo, meet us at sub-level corridor C. Bring full tactical." A hiss of static, then a reply crackled copy. 3 minutes out. But in that moment, a faint metallic sound drifted up the stairwell, a muffled clink, like someone checking a weapon. Aaron motioned for silence. "They're already here," he whispered. They descended carefully, each step measured. At the bottom, the cellar widened into a low-ceilinged room where wooden wine barrels stood like silent sentinels. The smell of damp oak mixed with something sharper gun oil. From behind a stack of crates, a whisper of movement betrayed a presence. Aaron signaled to Claire with 2 fingers and pointed left. Suddenly, a voice sliced through the darkness. "Drop the light." Aaron froze but didn't lower the beam completely, angling it toward the floor. 2 figures emerged, faces masked, rifles raised. Behind them, another shadow shifted, 3 men in total. "You shouldn't have come," one said. "This is private property tonight." Claire's voice was iron. "Police. Put the weapons down." The man chuckled. "You're outnumbered." Aaron's mind ran the math. Backup still 2 minutes away. 3 armed opponents. 1 misstep, and the cellar could become a tomb. He needed to unbalance them fast. He let his flashlight fall deliberately. It clattered across the stone, the beam skittering like a thrown star and dazzling the men's night vision for a split second. In that heartbeat, he moved. Aaron surged left, slamming into the nearest gunman. Years of force recon training came alive, elbow to the ribs, a twist of the rifle barrel downward. The weapon discharged into the floor with a deafening crack. Claire dove right, drawing her sidearm and firing a controlled double tap that sent another attacker sprawling, weapon skittering into the shadows. The third man lunged from behind a barrel with a knife. Aaron pivoted, blocking with his forearm and driving his shoulder forward. The impact sent the knife clattering across the damp stones. Police freeze. Claire shouted, weapon steady. For a tense second, only ragged breathing, and the drip of water from the ceiling filled the air. Then the wail of approaching sirens echoed down the stairwell. The tactical unit stormed in weapons drawn. In seconds, the cellar was flooded with blue light and shouting officers. The remaining attackers dropped to their knees as the suspects were cuffed and read their rights. Claire turned to Aaron, eyes bright with a mix of adrenaline and awe. If you hadn't seen that seam, Aaron wiped sweat from his brow. Old instincts, basements and blind spots. My mind still maps them like a battlefield. Cal and Angela arrived moments later, their relief palpable. "We've got the weapon stash," Cal reported. "Explosives, rifles, schematics for the conference hall." This was their second wave, no question. Angela added, "Your hunch just saved hundreds of lives." Aaron glanced at Claire. "Our hunch," he corrected. "You trusted me enough to come down here." For the first time that night, her professional composure softened into a genuine smile. "Looks like trusting you is becoming a habit." By the time they climbed back to the main floor, dawn had begun to gray the horizon. Officers escorted the suspects into waiting vans. Reporters clustered behind barricades, their breath steaming in the cold air as they shouted questions. Inside the now secure building, Aaron finally allowed himself a deep breath. His arms ached from the struggle, but his heart carried a steadier rhythm than it had in years. Something inside him, Something dormant since his last deployment had awakened, not as violence, but as purpose. Claire stepped beside him. "You've done more than any consultant or officer I could have assigned. You've saved this conference and probably my life twice." Aaron gave a modest shrug. "I just didn't want to explain to Bella why I sat on the sidelines." The mention of his daughter brought a gentle light to Claire's face. She must be proud. Aaron thought of the silver star charm resting on his nightstand and smiled. "She's the reason I keep moving forward." They left the building together as the sun broke over the bay, turning the wet streets into ribbons of gold. For a moment, they simply stood in the cold morning side by side, watching light spill across the city they had just protected. Claire turned to him, voice quiet. "You know, Aaron, courage isn't just about fighting. It's about choosing to stand when the world tries to push you back. You've done that for Bella, for all of us." He looked at her, the warmth of dawn reflected in her eyes. Maybe he said, "But it's easier when someone like you stands with me." Their shared silence said more than words, a bond forged, not only in danger, but in trust, the seed of something deeper than either had expected. The early morning sun painted the bay in bands of gold, but Chief Claire Anderson felt little of its warmth. Less than 12 hours had passed since the violent takedown in the hidden cellar of the convention center. 3 armed men connected to the Santucci syndicate were now in custody, along with a disturbing haul of weapons and blueprints. Yet the deepest wound remained Mark Blevins, once her trusted investigator had admitted to feeding those men every critical detail. Inside the precinct's secure interview suite, Claire sat across from Blevins. His wrists were cuffed, but his posture radiated a defiance she knew too well. He looked almost bored, as if he had spent a career preparing for this exact confrontation. "You've given us pieces," Claire said evenly. "Names of couriers the plan for last night. But I need to know the why. You served this city for over a decade." "Why betray it?" Blevins shrugged. "Why does anyone do anything, money? Insurance. A little leverage when life doesn't go your way." Claire studied him, trying to reconcile the man before her with the one who had once stood beside her at commendation ceremonies. You had a family, respect, a badge. Was that never enough? His eyes flickered a shadow of something bitter. Respect doesn't pay college tuition or medical bills, and let's be honest, the city only cares about results. Santucci offered me a way to be valued, to matter. Her jaw tightened. You mattered here. Maybe in speeches, he said with a cold laugh. But they gave me power. You gave me overtime forms. Claire forced herself to stay calm. Power bought with innocent lives. That's perspective, he said, flatly leaning back. And perspective changes when the paychecks stop meaning anything. Behind the observation glass, Aaron Brooks watched silently, arms folded. He felt the old Marine discipline settle over him, reading every micro movement, every twitch of Blevins's jaw. There was no triumph here, only the weary knowledge that betrayal often grew slowly, like rust under paint. Angela Chen joined him, her voice low. He's not talking about the bigger players. Keeps dancing around names. He's protecting someone, Aaron said. Or afraid of someone worse. Angela glanced at him. You see that same look I saw in insurgent couriers when they knew a warlord held their families, Aaron replied. He's scared of something bigger than prison. The thought left a chill. Hours later, after formal charges were filed, Claire emerged from the interrogation room, shoulders squared, but eyes heavy. He's done for the day, she said. Won't say another word without a deal. Aaron walked beside her down the quiet hallway. What about the rest of the network? We have enough to disrupt them, she said, but not enough to end them. Santucci will try again. She hesitated, then added, I hate admitting how deep this cut goes. He knew everything about me. Habits, family, even the nights I stayed late at the office. That's how he set the steakhouse trap. Erin placed a steady hand on her shoulder. That's not on you. You can't control someone else's choice to betray. For a moment, she let the weight of his words settle. Then she drew a breath and straightened. There's still work to do. By late afternoon, the precinct buzzed with activity. Detectives coordinated raids on Santucci-owned businesses. Officers compiled financial evidence from Blevins's accounts. Yet, amid the chaos, Aaron sensed something quieter unfolding. His presence had shifted from visitor to ally his perspective, shaping strategy as much as any official title. Angela caught him reviewing floor plans of other potential targets. You really should be wearing a badge, she said with a half smile. Aaron chuckled softly.